Chapter 9. Runine was glad Lasoni would never know the ultimate cost of her freedom. She would have tried to stay at the temple to protect Runine, but then Lasoni would be sharing the punishment lurking in the mob's incest, primitive mentality. Even with all her favors called in, nothing short of torture or death could counterbalance the 2 guards she had murdered. Well, and the young medicine keeper, despite it being self-defense. Damn. So, most likely death. She had thought about it her whole life, even in the happiest, most transcendent moments. Would it be an accident, a fall off a ledge, an ankle snapped in a badger hole while hunting alone, perhaps an herbal experiment gone awry? But for a navigator, dying wasn't the hard part. The hard part had been the grueling daily preparation. So many years of ceremonies, visions, and cup after cup of disgusting herbs. Not to mention all the nasty ways one usually purged said herbs. Runine had known long ago that it would always come down to a critical moment or two in the end. Only the lucky or evil lived long lives, and she was neither, apparently. With the additional threat of Lasoni gone, the mob formed an even tighter circle around Runine, ensuring her containment. Thick spear hunters and long-leg warriors swiped their weapons at her, looking to get in an easy shot. But Runine moved in such erratic circles, lunging randomly with her twin daggers. So the crowd reverted back to good old-fashioned taunting. Witch! Demon! Sacrifice! The last word gained traction, spreading in the crowd within seconds as it passed from mouth to ear to mouth with little resistance. You beasts of burden! Runine yelled, punctuating each word with stabs in the air. The crowd exploded with laughter. What an idiotic insult from a clearly insane woman. Was it right to kill her, being so crazy? Yes. Best not to anger the gods with her continued presence, or give her time to cast spells and bring curses upon the tribe. Outnumbered, Runine sprinted through the crowd back towards the temple, slicing attackers as she went. They tried to punch and grab her, but with the help of the sacred plants, she was a blur to their dull minds and bodies. The 2 new guards jumped aside when she reached the entrance, practically falling over their dead predecessors. They watched her muscle through the tan skins and back into the temple, now lit with larger fires and more sunlight. She knew only shamans would follow, but not until receiving the go-ahead from both chiefs. She had a few minutes to ready herself. She prayed it would be enough. Discarding her obsidian daggers, she let her arms relax and hang at her sides. The time of physical struggle and conflict was over. Now she had to turn her mind to the ethereal realms, ordinarily invisible, without being in a trance state or ingesting the sacred herbs. Runine slowed her breath, her heartbeat, once again. Soon, her mind and thoughts followed the cues from her calmed biology. This was the inner space of ceremony, alchemy, revelation, and transformation. As the background noises fell away, the sound of her breathing was deafening and comforting at the same time. My blue flame, remember, always safe there. She searched her memories for the patches of burning blue geysers she had found deep in the marshlands. Rich in sulfur, they taught her that not all fire was red, orange, and yellows. Some rare fires were feathery cyans, poppy blues, aqua veins, and cloudless jets of azure. And whenever she had been overwhelmed by the burdens of being an outsider, when it hurt just to be alive and in the world, she would evoke her blue flame of protection. Even the first time she had brought it into the world and felt the blue fire mixing with her essence, it hadn't scared her. Runine knew she was made of many unseen things. Because blood was smaller than flesh, it tasted like metal, and metal was not water. So blood carried something smaller than clear water. Who knew how tiny things got? maybe as little as the faintest star, and stars so far away. Could all the space in between her small pieces be like her distance from the stars? She hoped so. Remembering all her musings had felt like years to Runine, but in the mundane, sober world of Spears and Longlegs, her private moment had passed quickly and was about to end. Something deep inside her knew this, and once again, the protective, eternal flame formed a cobalt sphere around her. The scared gang of shamans outside had been bolstered by chugs of fermented berry wine. Now, corralled by the warriors, it was time to fix their affront to the gods before the chiefs had to make further examples. Drawing their sacrificial knives and implements, they slinked back into the temple, cautious of every shadow dancing on the stones and skins. When they came upon her, Runine looked like a carved marble sculpture, spattered with the reds, browns, and greens of herbs and gore. Standing there, silent and still, her eyes were closed, and she had formed her hands into a strange configuration none of them had seen before. Palms together, her thumbs rested just under her lower lip, her index fingers on her third eye, and the rest of her fingers stiff and fanned out. The oddity of this demon shifted some of their fears to curiosity. Still, the task at hand was appeasing the gods and removing her from the temple, whatever that looked like. Slightly relaxed by Runine's wooden state, they formed a loose band outside striking distance. Arguing in urgent hushed tones, they pantomimed the safest way to dispatch her. Runine, however, didn't budge or break her meditative form, because Runine had already reached her next destination. This new place Runine had just woken up in was so strange. The air pushed and pulled at her skin, making a fluttering sound like moths in her ears. And she was very, very old now. Older than the crone from the temple. Gravity was unrelentingly painful, and her back ached from being pressed against the cold stone floor. Wait, I was standing, but now laying down? Yes, laying down. She could feel many spirits around her, helping and facilitating. With shallow, fleeting breaths, she could almost catch the smell of the ocean, which was odd, as she had never left the plains or laid eyes on the ocean. But the other smell she did know, decaying flesh. Her raspy, rhythmic breathing echoed in the silent space. That type of sound was familiar as well. Runine had spent many days hiding in strange yet safe places in her youth. A cave. She was in a cave, yes. And the spirits, they were birds like her. Birds like Lasone. Had she found her apprentice once again? Lasone, Lasone girl, I am here with you, and we... The first dagger pierced her clenched stomach, slicing up into her left lung. Suddenly, Runine was more in the cave than the temple. Somehow, more inside Lasone than back in her own physical form. But as a second dagger tore through her mid-back, Runine simultaneously emerged into yet another location of space-time. Now she was once again far back in her memories, before she met Lasone. Runine was sitting next to her beloved blue flame in the swamp after being assaulted by the first boy she had ever trusted with her heart and body. A mistake she would never repeat. After that, Runine alone would decide who she lay with, but always with a dagger or a sharp rock close by. But it was also the first time, with the help of some stolen herbs, that she had controlled her breathing and her heartbeat. The first time she had stilled and centered her confused, racing mind by visualizing that blue flame around her, protecting her. And in that eternally safe space, it was the first time she had transformed her spirit and turned entirely into a bird. Now, her blue flame and bird essence were being subconsciously summoned by Lasone. I thought I felt it was you, Lasone said. But her following words confused the disembodied and disoriented Runine. Submit to me, and I will protect you. Lasone's strange request and promise called out to Runine in the timeless dimensions of her memories. But the offer wasn't wholly Lasone's. It was older, deeper, woven into the very fabric of the universe. It had been absorbed and encoded into the same sacred plants that had allowed all of this to unfold. What? I don't understand. Runine began to protest. She was glowing so brightly now, and she could hear the words again, whispered through her entire being. But it sounded like her own voice, yet synchronized with Lasone's and countless others. Submit to me, and I will protect you, Lasone asked again. The repeated mantra cracked open the third eye of Runine's astral mind, creating a hazy cone of probability that stretched and widened infinitely beyond the physical plane. Bathed in that God's eye view, her consciousness felt pulled taut like a drumskin. Still, within Lasone, yet sitting in the swamp and reluctantly holding on to her physical form in the temple. The homicidal elders grabbed her as she fell forward, stabbing with a frenzied bloodlust. Mercifully, a wooden war club delivered a crack to her skull, dropping her into the dirt with a thud. It had been so easy, they thought with relief. Bird, ha! The birds will feast on you now, demon. All for nothing. Puh! The crone said, spitting on the bloody sculpture that had just contained Runine. Unsure how best to dispose of such a troublesome sacrifice, they decided to break for lunch. Casually, the elders talked and laughed about the day's events as they filtered out past the hide curtains and into the hustle and bustle of the camps. Submit to me, and I will protect you. Runine was no longer at the swampy mudflats. She certainly wasn't in the prison-like temple. As much as she was anywhere, she was alongside and inside Lasone. Both of them were protected inside the heart of the blue flame. She could feel Lasone laughing out loud. It was such a wise, old laugh, though. When was this? Where was this? Then Runine felt herself moving again, being pulled back in a spiritual slingshot and about to be launched far away deep into the great mystery. No, please don't go, Lasone begged. Funny you. Bye-bye, little bird. Love you. No time. Love you. And then, suddenly, Runine was simply flying.